So we left off with meditation and awareness, talking about what you can do outside of the body in your astral form. So just to close that off, this is a quote from the Seth Speaks book, wherein it says, "You appear in astral form in realities that are comparatively more advanced than your own. You are usually recognized because of your disorientation." Oh, go ahead, this guy. "You are usually recognized because of your disorientation. You do not know how to manipulate. You do not know customs." And this applies to those who have left your physical system and those who are still in it. Meaning, this applies to those who are asleep or in whatever meditative state that allows you to leave the body. Whether you are conscious or unconscious of it, you appear in places and the beings there recognize you as a sleepwalker, kind of, in another range of frequency, in another dimension. So when you leave your body, as we make our transition finally, when we die, the same things apply. So we have to, in a way, go through a process of learning how to operate in these environments. And that's usually where we get help from other beings, etc. And we can be acclimated to our new environment. So we can learn how to do these things now. For example, you learn how to astral travel, etc. But it's the same concept, regardless of whether you are still in the body or you have left it permanently. So it's kind of funny. So you can be floating around, or whatever the case may be, bumping into stuff. And beings in that realm of reality, if they can recognize it, will recognize that, oh, that person is like still connected to the body. Yeah. It's probably like wandering through somebody else's house a little bit. If you walk through somebody else's kitchen, and they would be like, "What's that?" A little bit like that. So you don't necessarily do it every time you fall asleep, but it is a common thing. You know, you could be within your own dream space for the most part, and either you do or don't remember that, or you could travel outside the body and do something, whatever that is, unconsciously or consciously. So that kind of wraps up the previous section we were talking about. What we'll move to now is talking about energy and spirituality. And there's a couple of videos we'll watch. And I want to wait till Linda gets back.
Yeah, she had to go out and cough, I think.
Yep. But yeah, as you fall asleep, you can, if you hold the intention as you fall asleep, that I want to remain aware, I want to, know my dream space or whatever. That can help you call things, that can help you, even in your dream, sort of wake up and have a lucid dream. It's all about just basically practicing to use those muscles, those mental muscles, that we don't even necessarily know that we have. So this is about energy and spirituality. So we've talked about vibration, we talked about shifting your consciousness, and all of that is related to what energy is and sort of how it resides in the space that we allow for it. So energy is where you get, or as I call it, the sort of other side of the coin of spiritual growth. As you grow spiritually, your vibration changes, your awareness changes, and your capacity to interface with and utilize energy in a real way changes as well. So energy can refer to many things, but within the context of spiritual growth and expanding our conscious capacity to perceive the true nature of self and reality, I'm referring to our ability to use energy to do, quote-unquote, supernatural things, or things that are actually just normal relative to the rest of reality. To our ability to draw into the realm of matter the enlivening energy that dissolves the illusion that you are a purely physical being. So this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, in terms of you being able to do things that appear supernatural or magical. Now, I'm going to play a couple of videos. One of them is really short, and just generally speaking, you can find real stuff on YouTube. It's just a question of whether you know what you're looking for, and I'm not even saying I'm 100%. I'm not 100% sure on this video, but it hits all the markers about it being like a genuine representation of something that involves the use of energy etc. So this is the first video, and it's an African shaman who's using levitation. There we go. So, like I said, not 100% sure, but that hits all the markers for me seeing something that is authentic, you know. Especially when his breathing was kind of like very fast and stuff, because there, across all metaphysical and spiritual traditions like this, there are all kinds of breathing techniques that you use to induce a particular vibration, to induce a particular kind of consciousness. So things like this, things like this are part and parcel with learning how to utilize the energy that we have access to as a result of spiritual growth. And so you've heard of things like this, of course, but that is a real thing. So, like I said, that video is, I'm not 100% sure, vastly majority, I think it is an authentic one. This one is pretty much 100%. Let's see. So this is another one. So this one is about 10 minutes, and we'll watch the whole thing. But yeah, remember how you said positive and negative, and then they meet, kind of? Mm-hmm. These things behave in a similar way to electromagnetism. So that vibration, that energy, when it comes in, you can learn to direct it and use it in particular ways. So that's an example, 100% convinced that it's the correct, like, authentic. But that is an example of the energy in use. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. So if everyone's seen kung fu movies where everyone was like flying through the trees and stuff, that is because, according to legend, Buddhist monks and things like that were able to fly. And if you practiced enough, you could sort of approximate that with your movements and stuff. So that's where that comes down through popular culture in. So, energy. It is the means by which so-called supernatural things are accomplished. And like he said, he used it to show off, and it accidentally hurt somebody. And then his master, his teacher, in another realm of reality, came to him and said, "What are you doing?" So these kinds of things are passed down from teacher to student. They're not written down, they are spoken about. Now that might be not so much the case because of this time period, like he was saying, history is changing or whatever. In this time period, it is partially necessary for these kinds of things to become more public. You know, because that is the transition we're in. Humanity as a whole is learning about the true nature of self and of reality. And this is part of it. Energy has many names, some of which we've heard before. Ruach in Hebrew, meaning breath, wind, or spirit. Ruh in Arabic, blown breath, spirit. Qi in Chinese, I forget exactly which dialect. Air, breath, vital force. Prana, coming out of the Hindu and Vedic system, meaning life force, breath, vital force, or principle. And of course, the Ankh from Kemet, which is probably the oldest symbol of this. Now, I don't think Ankh is the exact word that means that energy itself, but the Ankh is the symbol of that energy enlivening physical matter and coming down from the higher into the lower to transform it. So this is a quote from the Law of One about the Ankh. We may indicate that the crux assanta, which is an old Latin term for the Ankh, or that kind of cross, is a part of the concept complexes of the archetypal mind. The circle indicating the magic of the spirit. The cross indicating that the nature of manifestation, which may only be valued by the losing. Thus, the crux asata, not asanta, actually I might have mistyped that. The crux asata is good. Is intended to be seen as an image of the eternal in and throughout manifestation and beyond manifestation through the sacrifice and transformation of that which is manifest. Meaning, the physical, material body is the thing that is sacrificed and transformed. Now, somewhat metaphorically, that means you raise the vibration. And that's where we get the story of Jesus on the cross as the being sacrificed, because that is what happens whenever a spirit comes down into the realm of matter. we sacrifice, which means to make holy, essentially, to transform that matter into the spirit and energy from whence it came. So the Ankh has the magic of the non-physical realms as they come down into physical matter and then come back out as a circle, as a cycle. Whereas the Christian cross doesn't have that. The Christian cross, we don't know what it looks like, but that is, you stay in matter. That's just a death symbol in terms of consciousness and spirituality, which is sort of appropriate since Jesus was killed on the cross, according to the story. Not going into what that actually means or whether that happened, but the point is the symbol is devoid of life. The Ankh is the life portion added back to that symbol. So you may have also seen the astrological symbol of the earth is a cross. With it's a cross inside of a circle. I should have put that in here, but I didn't. And all the arms are the same length, because that indicates the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, indicating the full width and breadth of the earth and all the consciousness that is within it. So all the directions on the north, south, east, and west astrological symbol of the earth just indicates the earth in totality. In the Native American medicine wheel, you see a similar thing. Like it looks like a cross inside a circle. And it usually has a circle also in the center of it. And you can go to the Smithsonian in DC and hear, like in the Native American Museum, and they have retellings of these legends from various Native American peoples, and they talk about someone traveling north, someone traveling south and east and west. That is a way of retelling the journey of the spirit in the earth, in the dimension of matter, as it learns how to sort of purify and raise its vibration. Because that is the whole point of coming into this experience. That's what that means. And that's where it says the circle indicates the magic of the spirit. The cross indicates the nature of manifestation, which may only be valued by the losing. Meaning, basically, we don't come here to stay here. We learn how to let this go and rise above it. And that's what this indicates. Ankh. Now, in reality, spiritual growth and energetic transformation are inseparable. As you grow spiritually, your capacity to experience and utilize energy grows, even if you are unconscious of this. But there is a point at which you must become conscious of the nature of spirit, energy, etc., in order to advance in this way. In its conscious form and the directed application of energy, we get examples like that man who they call Dynamo Jack. John Chang is another name he's known by. We get examples like that. He's consciously applying something that feels like electromagnetic energy. And there is much more, to what this actually allows you to do. But that is the source of where we get true magic, in the true ancient sense of it being a mystical art, related to energy and vibration and consciousness that you can apply to effect change in the physical material. So, the word magic comes from magi, or magi. And the magi were the priests of the Zoroastrian tradition, which is basically pre-Islamic Middle East, so like Turkey and around that region. These were the three wise men. We all know that story. The three wise men who followed the star, three magi, who visited baby Jesus in the manger. Not that story notwithstanding. These were the wise men of the era who could read the sign of the times based on the position of the stars and knew that the dawning of the sun, like we say the birth of the sun, the dawning of the sun, S-U-N, was close at hand, indicating that humanity was moving out of a period of spiritual ignorance, moving out of a period of spiritual ignorance, which on a more collective level we are on the cusp of. So we're still in that transitionary period, initiated at the beginning of the age, when like Jesus was supposedly born in the age of Pisces, and now we're transitioning to the age of Aquarius. but it has to do with the nature of the shift in consciousness that is occurring in us collectively during this time period that the story of the wise men visiting Jesus saw was coming. So the birth of the sun, S-O-N, and the dawn of the sun, S-U-N, are similar concepts. And it is the reawakening to the true nature of what this is and what we are. Now, I have a version of this on my wall at home. Here's an example of, to give you a sort of visual example of the true nature of what magic is. Using the words in that word. So we begin at the I. You could say the spirit source, the third eye, or whatever you want to say, the true identity of the nature of the self. And as it descends into the realm of matter through the layers of vibration, it takes on different form and expression. And so the true magician, like we were just saying, this Kemetic initiation is about learning to be a magician in the true sense of what that means. The magician draws down energy from the above into the below through a successive step process, kind of like the tuning forks, a series of tuning forks. And like the Dynamo Jack guy said, meditation. You can learn how to vibrate and tune with this energy. So in this way, it's just like kind of like a visual representation that gives you an idea of the evolution of this concept. So we've all heard I and I am who am. And as that takes on form, as it descends into matter, it can more layers are put on top. So in the magician down here in matter, doing things with the energy from above is using that same principle. It just appears to be different here. The Magi, by the way, as an aside, the anime Magi, one of my favorite ones. There's an anime called Magi. It is about Zoroastrian magic. Highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. Okay. But anyway, and the way that you do this, and the Law One talks about this as well, is in these ancient traditions, they would teach you to visualize using your mind with perfect concentration. And that is how you basically create a vessel or a vehicle to allow a higher dimensional vibration enter that thing that you've visualized or created and held within yourself. So it's just part of the process by which true magic is conducted. It has to do with visualization, energy, and vibration, and translating all that down into this physical experience. So that's what that is. So that's in its conscious form. In its more, down here at the bottom, this is new stuff. In its more unconscious form, it can often manifest as a feeling of positivity that some people just seem to radiate. People enjoy being in the presence of these kinds of positive radiators of a higher frequency. And they seem to have people gravitate towards them. And there's people that, people just love being around, or you want to be around them, and it always gives you a positive feeling, etc. They are vibrating in a higher way, with a higher vibration, even in an unconscious way. And what we see with the use of the chi is kind of taking that same vibration and putting it in a more directed way. And those two things are related. So that's when you have that's what it is. It's a higher frequency of vibration that they just seem to be in tune with, that they give off. And the room is more positive by their presence. Now, it is also possible to undergo energetic transformation without corresponding spiritual growth. And so this is way back when I mentioned my friend Chris, who had this happen to him. He is originally from Kansas, and he had a Native American friend, and he went to a ceremony that is not usually shown to white people. He's a tall white guy, but they liked him enough. And in the ceremony, the shaman or the person who was leading the ceremony did something to him, spoke words or did like little whatever the thing was, but it activated something in him. And I don't think this would have happened to him unless it was destined to happen. is unfortunate that it was in this chaotic way. But basically, it triggered an awakening of the kundalini, which is that same energy that was burning the newspaper with and stuff, but within yourself, being raised up through the chakras. And this is not only happened to him, it's happened to many people. It's very rare to happen spontaneously like this. But it can happen. And there are support groups for people who don't even know what has happened to them, where it ruins their life, essentially. Because as I said before, it is like sticking your finger in an electrical outlet. You don't know where it's coming from, you don't know why it's there. But the path out of that, which my friend Chris is actually learning now, since we've been talking, is to grow spiritually. That's where you learn how to balance all these energies. When you learn to balance this energy that you feel, you can greatly reduce the amount of negative effects that it has if it just like hits you like a ton of bricks, which it can. That's where I was talking about spontaneous combustion and other things that are sort of in that spectrum of experience. Like that's a very out of balance way for that energy to appear, because it'll throw your life into chaos.
So what's an example of that for him?
For him, imagine feeling that your nervous system is on fire.
Oh, jeez.
Like not being able to think straight because your mind just gets scrambled. So that energy can cause havoc if it is, and sometimes I think it's either supposed to happen or it's destined to happen. I think previous to that experience, he might have had the chance to grow spiritually before he got hit with the energetic component of it, whether he was conscious of it or not. And then that happened, and he was where he was when it happened, either ready for it or not. But yes, imagine your nervous system just like sciatica a little bit throughout everything. Like I said, stick your hand in an electrical outlet and you'll know kind of what it's like. But it's all kinds of things. And you have to learn how to incorporate it and how to heal it, if that happens to you. Now, ideally, and like I said, it's very rare for it to happen like spontaneously like that. Ideally, after a period of meditation, after a period of spiritual growth, it begins to move slowly. Like kundalini happens at a slow pace that you can handle.
Well, the shaman or whoever must have realized that this was meant for him.
I keep telling him, go back and find that guy,
Yeah.
whoever it was, and he still hasn't done it. But maybe he will. But like I said,
Scared.
yeah, he probably is scared because it was traumatic. Like he didn't know what was happening to him for years. So, but like I said, now he is actually engaging the spiritual process of it, and it is getting better. Like he's meditating and doing stuff. So it's good. And I just put this quote in here because the Law of One also speaks about this. I don't want to get into the details of everything that it's saying, but it says, as an entity grows more polarized, this locus will move upwards. So remember what I said, it's sort of what is in the above comes down and finds an equilibrium point, and that equilibrium point moves up. The higher your vibration, the higher it can go, the point of balance, with the influx versus you attempting to meet it. So that's kind of how the kundalini serpent is raised when they talk about that. And it activates these energy centers. It is not no joke when it is actually happening. As an entity grows more polarized, this locus will move upwards. This phenomena has been called by your peoples the kundalini. However, it may be better thought of as a meeting place of cosmic and inner vibratory understanding. So the above and the below are meeting at a place of balance. And that place of balance shifts depending on the development of that person. To attempt to raise the locus of this meeting without realizing the metaphysical principles of magnetism upon which this depends is to invite great imbalance. That's what happened to him. And that is what has happened to other people seemingly spontaneously. And they're, like I said, there are literal support groups for figuring out what the hell this is. Because it will ruin your life. If you are not prepared for it, or don't know what to do with it, or don't even know what it is. But that is the true energy of raising the kundalini. Like I keep saying, not metaphorical. Like you can feel it, you can use it, and then you can be out of your body with
This wouldn't. This is like totally different than say adrenaline.
Right. We all feel adrenaline. Like I said, stick your finger in an electrical socket, and then it never goes off. Except it kind of goes up and down in waves. Depends on the day or whatever. But like Mr. John Chang in the video was saying, he said it's something like electromagnetic energy, and you can direct it. When he's touching people, it's exactly what happens when you apply electrodes to their muscles. It behaves similarly to electromagnetism, but it's not exactly like the physical energy we see coming out but it's similar. So that's what that is. The influx of this energy is an inpouring of higher vibration energy from the higher realm and planes of reality. And this energy, given space by spiritual growth, transforms the average vibration and frequency of the physical matter of your body itself. So imagine a fully raised, fully activated, all chakras, etc., kundalini, spiritually balanced, advanced being. Like I was talking about the transfiguration earlier. That is the physical matter of your body shifting out of this physical material and into another space. And you can still potentially see it. But what is depicted here is an example of that same phenomenon in the Tibetan tradition. So, this energy pushes the very matter of your physical body out of the realm of the physical material and into a higher vibrational form. And that is where the rainbow body legends and tradition of the Tibetan Buddhist spiritual practice comes from. So this is where this, after the monks have been meditating for decades, they get to the point, I don't know how often it is, but they get to the point where the very matter of their body transforms. I don't know if that's ever been captured on camera or anything like that. Maybe. I haven't seen it myself. These are the kinds of things that would happen behind closed doors. They do not allow this kind of thing, generally speaking, out, except for, to help awaken the people, perhaps. But it is very much known about in terms of legend and tradition. So, as I said, this is what the story of the Transfiguration is in the New Testament. So let's watch a quick video about this. To obtain a rainbow body, one has to liberate their body into light by having only loving thoughts. Having only thoughts of a very high vibrational nature to the deep depth core of your being, and then staying there and allowing that to transform your whole vibration and frequency. And that's where that comes from. So it just takes them so long to be able to learn how to do that. It's literally, in that tradition, it's every single thought you have must be loving. The second you have a thought, even if it's not, it's back to you doing it again. But it has to do with the nature of the consciousness that raises the vibration of not only your perception and awareness, but of your physical body. It says, weeks before they transform, some can even engrave their hand or foot on a cave wall. What we're seeing right now, debatable. But if in a tradition that's been around for thousands of years, thousands of people put their hand on the same spot, it's going to create a thing over thousands of years. But the principle they're talking about is correct. Because as the matter of your body transforms, you begin to be able to manipulate other physical matter as if it was nothing. Because your vibration also has an effect in the external. In Kemet, that's how the priests move the stones, like by vibration. So the stones would levitate. Either levitate or, in some cases, be like literally materialized in place. So it all has to do with vibration and frequency.
The Source Field project, I feel like dealt with some of that, and how the bodies we see are actually a projection.
Yep.
Which is why they can be manipulated after you achieve a certain level of enlightenment, something.
You identify with what you actually are from the realm of the thing that is projecting the physical body into physical material. If you identify with that, then the physical material body just becomes peripheral. Yeah. So supposedly this is also part of the process. I would consider this, if that is a real thing, like if your body just sort of like, I would consider this like an incomplete transformation, because there's no point in leaving behind the
Yeah.
physical body. So if this is actually happening and your body is sort of not wasting away, but like its matter is dissolving a little bit as it leaves. That's possible, but again, I would consider that like an attempt to do the real thing. Still,
Yeah, so the point of it is when they achieve it, they just poof
remember in Star Wars where Yoda just
into
like
light.
disappeared? Gone. That is how, well,
Enough.
the rainbow body legends of the traditions of Tibetan Buddhism, this is what the story of the transfiguration in the New Testament is speaking about. This is the nature of most of the beings that we call ETs or extraterrestrials. They are shifted out of this physical material space into a higher vibrational one. So that's why they can be invisible when they choose to be. They have shifted away from the physical material range of frequency and vibration and have learned to operate in other realms through various means, usually the very near astral. So it doesn't matter, they can go through walls and stuff because they're not even participating in this sort of material spectrum or frequency, except when they choose to. This is the nature of the beings called Elohim, and this is your nature. This is the nature we aspire to in terms of spiritual development. This is what we are attempting to remind ourselves and reawaken within our experience, is that we are truly spiritual beings, simply having a temporary physical material experience. And we can enliven the physical matter of the body, etc., through this practice and sort of return to where we've come from, energetically and vibrationally. So even that state is not the end, quote unquote, of spiritual growth and attainment, but rather the great next step in the evolution of consciousness, vibration, frequency, and energy that all self-aware beings throughout the universe are undergoing. It is the process of awakening to the spiritual nature of the self and the reality that describes this transitional phase that all of humanity is now in and that is accelerating around us. So all of humanity is meant to go through some version of the same process with raising our vibration individually and collectively so that the planet itself becomes a more higher vibrational form of itself. Here we go. So to be on the same page, quote unquote, as a group of people engaged in spiritual evolution means to be vibrating along a similar frequency, energy, and intention as a collective, not only individually, but as a collective. So this does not mean you lose any of your individuality, but it's like a room full of tuning forks, learning how to attune together, or an orchestra, learning how to play in tune with each other in terms of vibration and frequency. And this has the effect of massively amplifying the strength and energy that is able to be utilized by that group of people and individuals, as well as the spiritual evolution of the group as a whole, and indeed the entire collective that it is connected to. So imagine that what happens in the rainbow body or transfiguration happening to a group of people. And supposedly that has happened most recently to the Mayans, I think. The original group of people who called themselves the Mayans did that. So as a collective, they were on one page vibrationally, spiritually, transformationally, and they left, having no more need for this physical experience. As I just said, now imagine this spiritual and energetic transformation is possible with an individual, occurs within a group of people. The transition from the physical matter we are familiar with to the matter of a higher plane of being of reality happens to the entire group. And as I said, this is supposedly what is supposed to happen to the entire planet at some speed. I mentioned that 100 to 700 year figure up there is related to that. But so, as I said, this also has happened to various groups of ET beings, with some relatively small groups of people here on the Earth, such as the Mayans, having done this most recently as far as I know. A loving, positive, harmonious society where the majority of individuals are energetically, spiritually, and vibrationally aligned have the possibility of accomplishing this too, if they so choose. but it's like you're all in sort of a kind of deep meditation even while you're awake and just doing stuff. Your vibration is aligned, and then it begins to transform the entire group. With this transition that humanity overall is going through, that is the alignment of all of the spiritual seekers in the earth helping to bring this about. So that the entire planet is able to make this transition to a higher vibrational form. And that's where that time period comes from. The Law of One states that this process may take anywhere from 100 to 700 years, roughly, starting sometime, I believe, or at least it greatly accelerated, in the 1940s. With the great acceleration of the evolution of science, technology, the fact that we detonated nuclear weapons, and the reemergence of ancient spiritual knowledge into mass awareness that we are seeing more and more and more. And it relates to us detonating nuclear weapons because nuclear weapons affect not only this dimension, but other dimensions. So basically, we start blowing them off, and the ETs immediately take notice because it affects them as well. And for the most part, they are here to stop us from killing ourselves. But, as we'll talk about very soon, the proverbial they, the Illuminati, negative elite, or whatever, want to essentially flip that phenomena to try to convince us to be extremely fearful, etc., towards it. The ETs are, for the vast majority, here to help. The negative elite want to make it seem like they are things we need to fear and fight.
To what end though? Because if negativity happens, it happens to them too.
Yeah. Also the ETs, and that's not good for them either.
Can they not see that?
Oh, them? Oh,
They just don't care.
they don't care. Let's say that it's negativity that they don't necessarily experience. They profit off of it. So it's not like they're necessarily, I mean, they may be very, in terms of mindset, very selfish, but it doesn't necessarily translate into suffering. They will project that onto everyone else so that they can profit off of whatever that allows them to do. Energetically, physically speaking. Basically, the average spiritual resonant vibration of the planet itself shifts to one that is a majority loving, positive, and joyous. If it has done so, then the path forward in the positive direction is set. And we don't have to worry about anything. And that is if the average vibration of the planet and all the people in it is one of a high nature. That basically prevents a lot of potentially catastrophic or negative things from happening. It prevents the sort of so-called negative elite from even being able to operate or whatever. That is when the day no longer followed by night approaches. The great spiritual transformation of humanity as a whole. The only question is how quickly this transition is made, not really whether it will be made. The Law of One refers to the process of individuals or groups of beings who have completed the lessons of physical material reality and who are able to make the transition out of this plane of experience into another one even before death as the harvest. And that's where I was talking about your dream earlier, Mom. That is the term you'll see throughout the Law of One about this energetic shift. It is like you're here in the physical to learn and to figure this out. Once you're done, there's no reason for us to be here. And we leave and go on to learn new things of other realms of vibration.
Hopefully more pleasant ones.
Yes. Okay, almost finished. The planes of reality. They are, generally speaking, according to most metaphysical, spiritual, esoteric traditions. The material plane, we're very familiar with that. The astral plane, I wrote them top to bottom, but the astral is like one step up. In the diagram, you can sort of see that. The astral plane, the mental plane, the causal plane, the Buddhic plane, the plane of spirit, the plane of the divine. So for our purposes, we're only going to talk about this one. Because the astral is the most similar to this one. Like when I said, there's ladies in church clothes wandering around being like, where's Jesus at? The astral is like, it's very many things, but it's, we can think of this material physical experience is a projection of it. This physical material experience is a shadow it. The astral and the realms above it are more real than this is. Here, our attention and awareness is very focused, well, very narrow. We don't have a good ability to take in all the information we're getting. In the other realms, when your awareness expands, that is where the realness of that comes from. You have more information, more experience. It's kind of what that means. And it's sort of present in that diagram. The lower is nested inside of the higher. So the higher forms the context for the lower.
Does this have anything to do with the densities they talk about in the Law of One?
Yes. So basically, and I'm actually still confused about some of the terminology they use because I don't know if it's,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it's referring to, but in my understanding, basically, yeah, as the lower you go, the more dense you become. So the physical matter of the body is a much more dense kind of matter than the astral matter.
Mm.
The astral matter is more dense kind of matter than the mental plane matter, and it just goes up from there. But like I said, the astral one is basically the only one we can talk about in terms of terms we're familiar with. It just goes out the window even more when you go higher. Now, each step up from the physical to the astral, mental, etc., is a step up in vibration and energy. Each step down, same thing, in the other direction. A step down in vibration and energy. So it's a little bit like an electrical transformer. It'll step down from one plane, one range of frequency to the next. Now, as I said, we only really need to deal with the astral. Almost no way to describe this, and forget about the rest of it. It will not make any sense. I don't know how to describe it. I've experienced, I believe, that I consciously remember parts of the upper, mid to upper astral, and some parts of the lower. Nothing beyond that I'm aware of. Anyway. Do I have this in here? Yes.
Where is this from?
This, I made this, but it is a recreation of like different versions of different diagrams that you might find anywhere. There's all kind of ways you could represent it as layers. There's all kind of ways to represent it, but the idea is that each one is within the other one, within the sphere of creation as a whole. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is.
It is. That's exactly what it is. So our lower chakras vibrate with the physical. As you move up the chakras, they vibrate in tune with higher dimensions of reality. And when we learn to draw up that energy, our average vibration as a whole vibrates in tune with those higher dimensions. Yep. Okay. Do I want to include that? No. So, I just skipped something that we kind of already covered. The astral plane. When we leave our bodies, when we go to sleep, we may not do this every night, but it's something that we do probably more often than we realize. We might do it in an unconscious state. So you think you're having a dream, or you remember it as a dream. Meanwhile, you're actually interacting with another plane of reality and possibly being rude to its inhabitants. While unconscious, in our sort of regular sleep as we think about it, we may literally be drifting or wandering around in an energetic body you don't even know how to use because we are still mostly focused in the material experience. Mm-hmm. The astral plane is where most people find themselves. Here, I'm going to use this visual. I won't talk about this. The astral plane is where most people find themselves when they exit the body in death, and where most mature spiritual beings may learn to travel consciously as an astral travel while still connected to the body. It is a plane that contains heavenly emotional and sensory experiences. It is a plane that contains hellish emotional and sensory experiences. The key is to understand that all things are mind. All things are vibration. And in terms of heaven and hell, religion greatly abuses and distorts this concept. But in terms of the true energetic nature of reality, nobody is sent anywhere. It doesn't matter how evil you are, whatever that means, doesn't matter how good you are. You don't get sent to some hell by some god. You don't get sent to some heaven because you held a bunch of old ladies across the street. No. No one is sent to any sort of hellish, well, realm wherein a hellish experience is possible. Really, it's just your own mind and mentality reflected back at you. No one is sent to any sort of hell. No one is sent to any sort of heaven. There is no judgment that comes from the one infinite creator. How could it judge anything? It would be judging its own self. Because we are extensions of, projections of it. How can it condemn its own self? It's cutting off parts of itself and sending it to hell. No. It is the nature of the consciousness that you cultivate during your physical experience, because this is the schoolhouse where we learn how to make sense of these aspects of ourselves, that determines where, quote unquote, you end up during your supra-material experience after you make your transition out of this body for the last time. No thing is forever. People who are extremely selfish and do all kind of horrible things to each other may find themselves in a very hellish place, but it is not forever. Eventually, the beings come and get you and say, you need to learn from what you did.
But the demons are projections from their own minds.
So, for the most part, I believe so. So when we, and that's something I'm still learning about. But there are entities that inhabit these other astral realms. But, as I said, these are realms of thought and mind. And they take, the forms change depending on who's doing the thinking, who's doing the interacting, with these realms and beings, whatever. So in the case, if somebody finds, like a very truly negative person finds themselves in a hell, then yes, most likely it is because it's exactly what we were saying in sleep paralysis. You see, if you see a scary thing, it's a projection of what's present in yourself in terms of fear, anger, whatever. That same principle happens in these other realms, but much more intensely, because you're no longer sort of barely interacting with it because you're still here in the physical. No, now you go sow what you reap what you have sown. In terms of the energy, in terms of the consciousness that you develop during your lifetime. Now, as I've heard it said and read, the vast majority of people don't have to worry about getting sent to hell, quote unquote. If you're a halfway decent person, you're not going anywhere near there. Now, there's still things to learn. There are many things to experience in the astral that you can learn from. You don't even have to be consciously aware of anything spiritual. You still go into some place that's probably fine. To get into some of the truly negative, low vibrational spaces, you gotta be real bad. Let's put it that way. So even if you're not even interested in spirituality, you just live a regular life. You would find yourself somewhere in the astral, and then you would learn and progress from there. You would go on to the rest of what it is we do before coming back, if you need another reincarnation. So as I said, it's important to remember, given the spiritual reality of our incarnation, no heavenly or hellish experience is forever upon the astral. Lessons still need to be learned, and the learning is done most efficiently here in the physical plane. So even if, let's say you live you're not necessarily spiritual or whatever, but you live a great life. You help people, you're a positive person, you're going to a heavenly experience, is what you would think of as a heavenly experience. But because you probably still need to learn consciously about the true nature of spirit, etc., and then deal with those kinds of experiences while here, you coming back to do that. The true goal, quote unquote, not the end necessarily, of the spiritual process is to no longer need to have to come back here physically. Because there are lessons yet to be learned. We don't have to worry about this now because here we are. As I said, lessons still need to be learned. In the physical material plane is basically the realm in which the most efficient learning can take place, because we actually have the ability to focus on particular problems and solve them, as opposed to going into the astral, for example, and then being immersed in that problem, or heavenly experience, whatever it is. So that's, I think there's more to it than that, but that's my best way to explain it currently. The astral plane contains all manner of entities and beings who live in other realms of reality and have never incarnated in the physical material at all. So that's where we talk about the old ancient traditions of elves and little people, like fairies and stuff like that. those all come from people having perceived into these other dimensions and seeing beings that actually live there, that are from there, and they never come into this physical experience. They have their own life. We don't know what's going on. But there are all kinds of things out there, in there, within this perception. And as I sort of mentioned, it is the astral plane, generally speaking, that the ET beings, extraterrestrial beings, shift into vibrationally in order to operate invisibly to us and with a purely, invisibly to us who are still sort of purely focused on the material. So that's why, like, in a lot of genuine UFO videos, you can see them just disappearing instantaneously, or beings sort of appear and disappear. They're sort of shifting vibration and focus and moving in and out. That's where you get, so in some UFO abduction stories, it can freak people out because sometimes people will get pulled out of their body into their astral body, especially if they have no knowledge that that's possible or what that is, and be like examined by these beings in the case where that is actually happening, if that actually happens, and it freaks them the hell out, of course. But I will say I've never had an abduction quote unquote experience like that, and as someone named Dr. Stephen Greer, who I think is the pretty much the best publicly facing figure who talks about these things and the transition humanity is going through, talks about is that a lot of the sort of scary abduction stuff, we do that. People do that.
Okay.
Using technology that we, in many cases, reverse engineered from actual extraterrestrials.
And then experiment on other humans.
Yes. Essentially to sow fear and to create that narrative. Real, genuine ATs are, for the most part, it might be like weird, but it's very positive. Now, I say the vast majority, I do believe it's possible that there are negative ETs out there, but even in the law of wanted states, it's like they're not permitted to generally operate because they're kept away from a developing planet and a developing group of people, for the most part, in our case. That's a whole other topic we can get into, but so to close out, and we'll see whether or not you want to see the videos after this, but let's talk about the negative elite, who they are. Let's talk about them. Who is they? So I made this little Venn diagram to give you an idea of where they start to show up. Transnational corporations, doesn't matter what it is, pharmaceutical industry, whatever. Military industrial complex, religious institutions, intelligence agencies. Where those converge, you start to see them. That's where they start to become more obvious. Now, the people operating in these other things may be of the same mindset. Mark Zuckerberg may be like a real, he loves his techno-feudalist capitalism or whatever, but he's not necessarily one of them, quote unquote. Now, again, this is slightly a loose term I'm using. Them, they don't necessarily all like each other or whatever. But this generally refers to people who are aware of the vibrational, energetic nature of everything, and they use this to their advantage in order to seek domination, to seek control, to seek power, etc. Because that is just the mindset that they are of. It's like instinctive.
Does Elon want to be a part of this?
He probably already is just by his mindset, but I don't think Elon is evil, quote unquote. I just think he's kind of an idiot and a selfish one. So I don't think he wants to be I don't think he wants to be like initiated into the dark rituals of the true masters of evil that wherever they exist in the earth.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't think Zuckerberg wants that. I don't think most of these guys that we see publicly facing really want that. They want the money and the power and the control, so they're automatically sort of aligned to that mindset. Mm-hmm. But they're not necessarily in a club.
Who do you see as a negative elite? Netanyahu?
Oh, most likely. Not that he's necessarily in the club, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was one of them. Mm-hmm. I don't know how deep, but supposedly Dick Cheney knew about all of this. The ETs and stuff like that. Because Dick Cheney was
He was kind of scary.
He was a scary dude. a corporate master of capitalism and all the dark,
Well, yeah.
all the dark stuff that comes with it.
He was part of the transnational corporation, the military industrial complex, and the intelligence agency.
Yep.
He was part of all of that.
Yes, the question is Trump one of that.
Trump is not. I don't think he is. Not that he's not a selfish asshole, but he's not one of them. I think he wanted to be one of them, and not necessarily the dark masters. He just wanted to be considered part of the elite. Like he always wanted to be part of the New York elite or whatever. But they thought he was kind of an idiot, so they didn't necessarily let him into those kind of circles. If you get what I mean. But that might be our salvation because he's kind of not one of them, even though he is, a racist, narcissist, and all the rest of that.
J.D. Vance.
Oh, J.D. Vance is a clown. No, he's not a nothing.
He wannabe. He's a wannabe.
Yeah, he would. No, he's not a nothing. I'm trying to think of who in our political system is like. There's probably some. But like I said, Trump he's not really. I don't think he's one of them. But he's more malleable.
Miller.
What about
Stephen.
Peter?
Stephen Miller. No, he's not one, but he is of the same mindset.
What about Peter Thiel?
Peter Thiel might be one of them. Yes.
Sheldon says
He
Bill
runs-
Gates.
Bill Gates is one of them.
He runs
Intelligence.
Palantir.
Communication.
And there are,
He's part of at least 3 of those.
there's layers within layers. Like Bill Gates could be one of them. He doesn't necessarily know about all the rest of the true hierarchy that exists within these people.
He looks so harmless.
Yeah, no. He was like, I'm just me, Bill Gates. And then he, no, you can't be worth that much money, and if you're worth that much money and you're an actually positive person, you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna change people's lives every single day for the rest of my life. You're not invested in some pharmaceutical corporation that, may or may not do something.
Look at Gates and look at his wife Mackenzie. She's doing
No.
this.
Oh,
His
Bezos.
wife, Melinda.
Bezos' wife.
Bezos, you're talking about.
Bezos.
Yeah, Bezos'
$6
wife.
billion.
Donating money left and right.
To do-
And Bezos is always like, no.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, Bezos, I don't think he's one of them. But it doesn't matter. Like, you can be of the similar mindset. You don't necessarily initiate into what that is. But you can be on the same page. And if you automatically are, there's no need for them to bother with you. You're already doing their work. You already believe capitalism
Right.
in money and control and domination. Like, you already believe that. You know what I'm saying? Them. Within them, there's a hierarchy. Black budget programs, that's a big part of it, and that's where somebody like Dr. Stephen Greer talks about the contractor state that basically just sucks money off of the U.S. government and funnels it into top secret and above projects and stuff is related to them. This is where the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology, which is a thing, happens, and then they use it for their own nefarious purposes, essentially. Like I was just saying, abductions are us. Using that kind of technology, they can do that. And in my video about ETs and consciousness, I talk about some of my experiences that were negative. Now, nothing too dramatic and scary, but definitely things that were not good. And in my experiences, none of them felt like actual extraterrestrials. It was people. And you can watch that on the channel if you want. So that's where I believe, and I'm very much in agreement with people like Dr. Stephen Greer, that the majority of any negative experience like that is us. It's because we are trying to induce a certain vibrational fear in the population in general. And that is what we are here learning to counteract. So, the hierarchy. Black budget programs, that can be all kind of stuff, including the ETs, vehicles that we use for bad purposes. All kind of CIA drug running, all that top secret stuff that comes through, as legends from the streets that has some reality. Above that, we get secret societies. And again, this is my assessment of how this works based on my own, absorbing all this information. But above that, we have secret societies. Not necessarily the Freemasons, but within the Freemasons would be some of them. See what I'm saying? Above that, powerful families and bloodlines. So in the same way that they always try to keep kings and queens in Europe or whatever, trying to keep the power within the family, same thing. Above them, negative ET beings. So if you spend any amount of time on the internet, you heard about reptilian ETs and stuff like that. I'm not convinced it is exactly how that is generally talked about, but I do believe that is a possibility. Including, they don't necessarily have to be reptilian, but it's any ET being that is of that sort of negative mindset, and that is possible. The Law One talks about them, but as I said, they're generally very in the minority, and they're not necessarily even allowed to operate on like a planet that is developing. So, and it's not a case of the devil made me do it. It's not like all these people down here are operating because some reptile alien told them to do it. No, they like being, selfish. But in terms of how reality works, when there is a group of people in the earth who vibrate at a certain level of a certain mindset, it puts out a call.
Yeah.
And then there are beings who answer that call. Positive and negative. And what we are trying to do, and what I believe is going to happen, is that positive vibration is going to overtake any potential for negativity. And that's why the ET beings who are here now are very positive. Because they are responding to the awakening of humanity and attempting to make sure that we go through this transition without killing ourselves or getting taken over by these people.
Or affecting them, because what happens, as you said.
Or affecting them.
Oh, so that's why we have to be positive. We have to put love and joy and whatever into the macro, so it sends out that call.
Yep. And it creates a sort of energetic environment that doesn't even allow for any potential negative actors to even rise to power or even operate here. So we pull the rug out from underneath them with stability, love, joy, and a higher vibration. Yep.
So, people like Trump and Netanyahu and all those guys are sort of like a cosmic baseball bat, or sort of like an immediate electric shock in a sense, because it takes something like that to jar people into pausing and potentially introspecting.
Yep.
And potentially seeking, taking a self-journey.
Yes.
So even that has its role if
True.
you see it positive.
True. And I'll just say Netanyahu is worse than Trump. Much worse than Trump.
Well, people like Netanyahu and Trump are just wannabes. 'Cause they don't come from a powerful family or whatever.
What was I just about to say? Oh, but like I said, with Trump, did you see where Zoran Mamdani went to visit Trump?
Yeah.
And Trump was like, hey, I like this dude actually. Trump is susceptible to a more positive vibration.
Yeah.
He just, in his own narcissism or whatever, and all that stuff, and he's surrounded by...
That's the issue.
Oh.
All Mandani has to do
Yeah,
is oppose him in some way,
yeah,
and he flips just like that.
yeah. These people, they respond to strength. They respond to a vibration that is stronger than their own. So, and don't get me wrong, Trump, narcissist, asshole, racist, all of that, kind of. But at the core, he's not like an evil master of the universe.
I don't think he's capable.
No,
He's a puppet.
no, I don't think so.
Can he
Which
grow into something else though?
He could. Well, what do you mean? Like bad or good?
Well, I think right now he's getting the one thing in life he never had, which is actual wealth and power.
Yeah. So the potential is there for him to be worse, which is...
What's the point if you're getting ready to transition at some point in time,
You know,
It's just that
he doesn't
I
look
watched this special.
Not at all.
There are what, 300 people that are frozen in time?
What?
They just had their bodies frozen.
Okay, we'll wrap it
But I
up.
mean, Trump's that kind of guy that he would try to pass it on to his family. And,
Yeah.
um,
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. But just on the way out, how do they influence? Just as an example, Katy Perry is an Illuminati-sanctioned artist. What did I write down? I didn't. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean she knows about any of this stuff or is ritualistically initiated into some of the true core of whatever vortex of evil exists in the world. But she sings the songs that she's given. She puts the information out there. And throughout her entire career, her music has had all kinds of esoteric and metaphysical stuff hidden into it. And I was going to play one of her music videos, but I don't think we really need to. But
What do you mean they're done with her?
So, if you were wondering why she went to perform for the King Charles inauguration or whatever that's called,
Oh, he got crowned or whatever.
they're finished. That's my assessment. Like she went and performed. She performed all her duties. She went and performed before the king. You know, the royal family of Britain, who are some of them.
Yeah.
And now that the sort of whole ritualistic relationship between her and them and this whole mindset is complete, they're just like, all right, you're done, whatever. And you'll notice her career after this is not going well.
No.
Because they're kind of finished. She can try to do whatever she wants, but she served her purpose. She's put out stuff about ETs. She's put out stuff that are good examples of how they work. Actually, you know, it's only like a music video, but we'll see. So we don't have to watch this whole thing, but pay attention to the lyrics.
Wow.
Can you see how this is how them operate? They put out this consciousness, and this is an example of it. They put out this frequency and vibration, and they say, "Oh, you think you're good," but it's weird. And this is a whole other conversation about how they operate. There are laws of karma, essentially, which basically means if you do harm to another people, eventually you get it paid back. Like you have to experience what that is. But they skirt around those laws. They find ways to do it. And this, I use this song as an example because it's a very good example of how they do that. So they're telling you what they do. You think it's all good, everybody just consume and buy and everything, and it's all good. But you are a slave to a mindset. You are chained to a rhythm, a distorted version of reality. And you love it. It's a catchy song. You know? We do love it. We love buying stuff.
We do.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that whole, and not necessarily that buying things is wrong. I'm just saying with that mindset of materialism and the worship of it is what benefits them.
Yeah.
Because that is the divide and conquer strategy of spirituality. So,
And then she tells you it's your favorite song.
it's your favorite song. You love it. But I'm going to show you how they function. In order to get around the karmic laws, they give you a choice, even if you are not aware that you're making the choice. It's kind of like a drug dealer being like, "Oh, this is about to make you feel fantastic. This is about to make you feel so good." And at the end of the sentence, they're like, "But you really shouldn't take it." You know? You probably should take it. But pay attention to all the stuff I just said. You see what I'm saying? And they give you that, they sort of give you a choice about whether it is you've been given a choice or not. So I'll show you that in this song. Sweeping under the mat. What are we sweeping under the mat? The knowledge that this system is not sustainable. It is being ruled by things that are inherent, mentalities, etc., that are inherently self-destructive. And in the middle of this, you get and you're thinking, "Oh, it's a catchy pop song. I'm chained to the rhythm of the pop song," and you kind of are. But that is the subliminal psychological messaging that is being presented through this song by them. So they want you chained to the rhythm. But as I said, to give you the choice to try to skirt karmic law, they make you aware of the fact that there is another opportunity. And that is where Damian Marley shows up out of nowhere and says, time is ticking for them. They know this. And that is why they try to accelerate this, global fascistic movement they want. Damian Marley is there being the melanin, the inspirited spiritual melanin, reminding you that you don't have to pay attention to this. And in that way, the Illuminati, etc., are telling you that, hey, you don't have to pay attention to this, but you should. Take the drugs.
That's how they get out of the
That is how they
law.
skirt karmic law. Because it is not necessarily an infringement, a violation of free will. They're not like hitting you with a hammer. They're giving you a hammer and be like, hit yourself, man. That's real cool. You should hit yourself in the head with that hammer. But you don't have to. And then we just do it.
Is that the same thing? They have to tell us what they're doing?
Yes.
And it's up to us to make that choice?
Yes, if you heard that, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
They tell us what they're going to do, and we, in our ignorance, go along with it. But because technically, they give us a choice.
The choice is yours.
The hammer does not come down as hard on them, and they get to continue this, illusion that they're. And then right after they woke up the lions, no, go back into the sleep.
Yeah.
So that is how it works. That's how they do it. That's the methodology. And you can find that same pattern repeated in all kinds of stuff that they have their influence in. Yeah. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end. I don't think we need to go. There's more videos and stuff I wanted to show you, but they're all a lot longer. And it's getting kind of late, so.
You can send us.
But I will, yeah, I can
Or
send you the links to the
something.
videos. When I
Yeah.
eventually put whatever version of this up on my channel, I'll include all the links to all that and make you aware of, all the stuff.
That's great.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.